Hey, my name's Dave. Thanks for stopping by Rockin' the Mitten. Hope you're doing well. As for me, I've been laid up a little bit over the last month or so, but I have been spinning some records, so that's why I'm here. I want to talk about them, share them with you. But first up, a couple of things non-vinyl related. I got a CD I want to talk about. There's this band that I stumbled across on Bandcamp that just really blew me away. And their name is Ammo. And this is their debut CD EP, Taking the Throne. And they're a traditional heavy metal band out of Toronto, Canada, and they just really blew me away on this disc. I'm going to put a link to their Bandcamp down in the description, which is where I picked this up from, and as you can see, they graciously offered to sign it for me. Sorry about the glare, but anyway, if you're into the traditional heavy metal, classic heavy metal, new wave of British heavy metal, that kind of sound, Ammo, these are guys you definitely need to check out. So I just wanted to give them a shout out and make sure that maybe somebody else could pick up their CD and have a listen for themselves. Another thing I want to talk about is actually a book. This is a book that my daughter bought me to kind of have something to kind of do while I've been going through the whole surgery thing, and that's Dancing with Myself, Billy Idol's autobiography. And not sure what if you're a fan of Billy Idol or not. I am sort of, not a huge fan, but I was really impressed with this. I mean, I've read a lot of rock autobiographies, and they're kind of lacking, but Billy really impressed me with the quality of his prose. He's really well spoken, well written. There's a lot of insight into his early life and some of his interests beyond music, which was really interesting to hear about. And one of the things that I found really refreshing was the honesty that he shares in this book. He's not trying to pass the buck on any of his problems, on any of his mistakes. He owns them, and repeatedly says, the regrets that he has. I've read some, for example, Lita Ford's autobiography, and after reading that, I just left with a feeling of she's quite the narcissist, and nothing's her fault, and just was. It just painted a lesser of a picture of her as a human being than I had going in. But no, I really enjoyed this book, and I think if you have any interest in Billy Idol's career, you definitely should check out Dancing with Myself. Okay, now for the vinyl. First up is Goes to Hell by Alice Cooper. This came out in 1977. It's his second solo album after Welcome to My Nightmare. And this is on Warner Brothers. And it takes up the story that was left off with Welcome to My Nightmare. Follows the story of Stephen. But it was also kind of interesting if you listen to the lyrics. There's a lot of autobiographical content there, which was kind of cool to hear. But yeah, Welcome to My Nightmare is a classic, and this does not live up to that, of course, but it's still nonetheless very good. I really enjoyed this album. Things kind of went downhill for Alice in his solo career after this album, but yeah, definitely this is a good album. You definitely should check out if you haven't already. Jumping ahead, let's see here. I'll put that. Make sure it don't fall. Jumping ahead 10 years. This is Big Generator by Yes. Absolutely beautiful copy. Mint all around. And like I said, this came out in 1987 on Atco, and there's custom labels on this guy. Now, I really didn't get to be much of a Yes fan early on. Owner of a Lonely Heart was what kind of triggered my interest, and I know a lot of longtime Yes fans felt that album, and particularly this album, was a sellout. It's more accessible, more commercial, and technically, yeah. This produced a couple of big hits, "Rhythm of Love" and "Love Will Find a Way," both radio successes, and I think they were the band's biggest. Well, other than "Owner of a Lonely Heart," I think they were the second and third biggest hits that Yes has had. "Shoot High, Aim Low" is another song on here I really enjoyed. It wasn't released as a single, but I felt that was an awesome song. But yeah, I dig this period of Yes. I need to really start looking at their older material. I need to expand my prog rock horizons. I enjoy the Moody Blues, and yeah, the songs you hear on the radio from Yes from earlier, I enjoy. And I did go see Yes a few years ago in Louisville, which they put on an excellent show. But still, I need to really expand my horizons. But anyway, Big Generator, if you're a fan of 80s Yes, it's a no-brainer. Even regular Yes fans, give it a shot. There's still some pretty interesting elements at work on that album. Not all just a sellout. That was their 12th album, by the way, I believe it was. Next up is The Tane by Horselips. This was their second album in 1976, I want to say. 76 or 74, something like that. 74. Yep, 74 on Atlantic Records. And of course, Horselips, an Irish, hesitate to say Celtic rock band, but they're a heavy rock band that embrace a lot of Irish instrumentation and melodies. Let's get bold. And in this particular album, it's a lot more folk rock than it is hard rock. The whole concept of the album is the Tane. It's an Irish myth, and they kind of build the whole album around that, telling that story. So there's a lot of progressive elements going on, a lot of Irish/Celtic things going on, but it's okay. It's not great. I like their harder stuff more than I do their folkier stuff, but still, if you're into that sort of Irish rock hybrid, give them a try. Going back to the 80s, 1986, I want to say, 1985. Poolside by New Shoes. And yeah, New Shoes are an R&B duo, husband and wife, Valerie Day and John Smith. They kind of hit the mainstream with a song called "I Can't Wait," which was a staple on MTV. I remember seeing that constantly, and that's what kind of got me into this band, was that video. And that's pretty much the best song on the album. Although on this album, it's the Dutch mix. They had originally released "I Can't Wait," the version, the U.S. version that you hear on MTV or on the radio, a couple years prior to this album being released, and it made its way overseas, and some Dutch DJ remixed it and made its way back and ended up on this album, on the Atlantic label there. And so, it's okay. It's kind of what we would call the extended version. Not my favorite, but yeah. This is probably an album that's more for the hardcore 80s synth pop and new wave fans. Not an essential album by any means, but still, yeah, it's fun. It's nice to cross this one off the list. All right, this next one goes back to 1977, and I kind of hesitated to even show this because it's a little embarrassing, but what the hell. Life is what it is. And I'm not going to say much about it because everybody knows this. Soundtrack, Saturday Night Fever. I've spent the last year really in kind of a reflective mood on my life, and this album, like I said, from the movie, it came out in 1977. I do remember my parents buying this album when the movie came out. I was 7 years old at the time, and I know this is absolutely ridiculous, but anyway, got played a lot, so there's comfort in those memories, you know, in certain points in our lives, and so that's why I picked this one up. I'd seen them in the stores all over the place, and they're beat to shit, and they're expensive for some reason, but this one was, you know, practically mint, $10. It's worth it. Back to 1984. Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen. I am not really a Bruce Springsteen fan, but I have to admit, being, you know, of age in the 80s, this album is just loaded with the hits. Really can't be a fan of the 80s without knowing these songs, and without at least wanting or enjoying or acknowledging the songs on this album. This is probably the only Bruce Springsteen album I'll ever own. Maybe I'll own Born to Run if I come across it and it's decently priced, but this is the original inner sleeve. But yeah, you know, it's Bruce Springsteen. Another memory I have of this, I remember when Born in the USA first was out on the radio. There's also this insert here that came along. Lyric insert. I just remember my dad sitting in the car. I don't know where the hell we were going somewhere. And Born in the USA comes on, and he's like, "You call this singing? He's doing nothing but yelling." Okay, well, my dad was a Glenn Miller, Artie Shaw kind of guy, so. Okay, next up, sticking into the 80s, 83, this is a Scottish band, for those Scottish New Wave fans. This is The Crossing by Big Country, their debut album. And this spawned the hit that, again, if you're at least remotely familiar with 80s music, In a Big Country. And yeah, this is a really enjoyable album. Of course, that song, I love that song. But there's a couple other ones, Fields of Fire, The Storm. This really is a good album as a whole. A lot of different lyrical themes. In fact, there's a track on here that talks about the Jacobite Rebellion, and I'm a sucker for lyrical content that is a historical basis. So you're going to get me every time with that, which is why I'm such a big fan of Iron Maiden. But not the only reason, but one of them. But yeah, this is very, very good album. They kind of didn't really do much in the U.S. after this, but if you're going to get into Big Country, if you haven't really explored them at all, definitely start with their debut album. The only thing that sucks about this, it's probably not going to stay in my collection, this particular copy, because I bought it at a local shop by me. It's really kind of, the lighting is really bad in there, so you're kind of risking it when you're looking at the albums. And I looked at it from the dim light that I had. It looked like it was okay. It wasn't too bad. But there's a ton of skips in this album. So, and then it's not the only one. I've been to that place before. I picked up a Queen album that was so noisy as to be practically unlistenable. So I've crossed them off my list. I'm not going back there. But if I find another copy that'll just sit there as a placeholder until I can get another copy. Back up to 1984, Eddie Grant, Going for Broke. He of Electric Avenue fame. Electric Avenue is not on this album. I believe this is his this is the album that came out after. I can't remember where in this discography this album is, but this does have Romancing the Stone. If you're familiar with that movie, you've heard that song before. And this was actually pretty good. You know, it didn't have as much reggae influence as I expected it to have, but it was a pretty solid synth pop album from like I said, 1984. Worth a shot if you want to give it, if you're a fan of the 80s and you don't know much about Eddie Grant, give it a shot. Which is what I did on this next album. This is from 1981. This is a self-titled album from Smashers. Never heard of this band before. Looking at the cover, I assumed it was, early 80s power pop. Like I said, released in 1981 on Cat Family Records. And yeah, definitely, that's exactly what it was power pop. Turns out that they are a group of session musicians out of Nashville. And this is a one and done sort of album. You know, my favorite kind of discographies, because that's easy as hell to collect. But yeah, early 80s power pop. Run of the mill might be a little generous. It really was boring. Really was not interesting at all. So yeah, I can't recommend this one. So, but if you come across it and you just have to have everything power pop related. All right, going way back here, 1964, I believe it is. This is the debut album from the Dixie Cups, Chapel of Love. We've all heard that song. Another good one on here was Iko Iko, which it's pretty fun song to listen to. And this one again has memories tied to this one. When my wife and I got married, one of my father-in-law's buddies was old school DJ at that time, man. They're a bunch of bikers, and he just carried his record player everywhere to all the parties. And so he was sitting out front of the church playing, going to the chapel. So, yeah, you know, it was fun to have in the collection. And lastly, for today, this was from 1986, but spent a lot of time in the 80s, but this is Love and Rock and Roll by the Greg Kihn Band. Power pop out of California, San Francisco, I believe. And it's okay, not bad. I guess the most interesting thing I could say about this was, I think it's on EMI. Most interesting thing I could say about this is it's got Joe Satriani played on the album before he went solo. I think the very next year was his debut solo album. So if you're a Satriani fan, he definitely doesn't shred on this, but still, if you're a Satriani fan, give it a listen, see what you think. So, all right, well, that's all I got for today. Getting more listening time in. I'm still off of work, so what else am I going to do? But I wanted to get these out of the way, because if I keep listening, I'm going to start forgetting the things that I listen to. So I want to make sure I get that out there while it's still fresh in the old noggin. So yeah, there'll be more coming soon. Hopefully within not within a month. Hopefully a little bit sooner than that. So, all right, everybody. Take care. I really appreciate you watching. Appreciate you taking the time to spend looking at the crap that I listen to on a routine basis here. So, till next time, peace.